Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Scarves and Spikes. Sydney.
Tommy.
We are back, baby. We are back, baby.
Are we, though?
That's not a Tommy quote. That's not a Jurgen Damm quote. Thank you, Jurgen Damm, for opening the show as usual. Friend of the show. I heard from a reliable source his name may or may not rhyme with Garth Lagerwey. I can't come up with anything funny real quick.
No, you're good.
But he says, we are back, baby.
Baby. End quote.
Baby. Yeah. Just add a baby to it. So, like, if you just say you're back, you're back. But if you're back, baby, we're all the way back.
Well, we're back.
Yeah, and we're back, and it's on a Wednesday. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Doing well. How are you doing? We got Miranchuk officially in the fold, officially a Lady United player. Now all we do is wait for A and number 9, and then B for both players to be available for selection. So I'm doing well.
Yeah, for sure. And we got a big show. We're going to talk about Miranchuk. We're going to talk about the Garth Lagerwey interview that he had on 92.9 because I thought he gave some good information. Sydney, you had an opportunity to speak with Carlos about Miranchuk. I heard you ask your question today. I was so proud that you were on there. He missed one of your questions. I was a little upset because that was the best question you asked. But we'll get to that one. And then a little bit later, we have Jillian Sakovits, right? Who has not been around. Everybody knows her. Everybody misses her on Atlanta United TV. So we will have her in here, and we'll talk to her about the All-Star Game, Leagues Cup, and Atlanta United.
Exciting show.
Yeah, and we got to wait for Leagues Cup, too. Like, it's a long wait, considering there's a game tonight, right?
Yeah, as we're kind of recording this, Santos Laguna, who is Atlanta United's opponent on Sunday, takes on DC United. So DC United can punch their ticket to the next round if they get a victory. By the way, if you're listening to us on Thursday morning or thereafter, you'll obviously will know the result by then. But as we're recording this, DC United are playing Santos Laguna, or set to play Santos Laguna in Chester, Pennsylvania, because the facility staff couldn't get their acts together to get Alley Field ready after a U.S. Women's National Team match. So there's that. But yes, got a big show ahead, and I am looking forward to it, Tommy.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get going, scarvesandspikes.com. Check us out. Up-to-date news, transfer updates. I had a great article about Miranchuk, a little bit about him. So check that out when you have a moment. Patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. Check us out. We've got 3 tiers, $1.17, $5, $10 if you super love us. We appreciate it. Let's pay the bills, everything like that. The Discord's been rocking. We've got a ton of new people in there over the past couple of weeks. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate everyone that was in there before. We've had some great conversations, some crazy conversations, but it's been fun. And we've got discounts on our merch. Check that out. You can check that on our website. Get yourself a hat, mug, shot glass, or I don't know if there's shot glasses, but you could treat anything as a shot glass if you want to. Shirt, hoodie, not hoodies, not yet. So we'll get there.
Yeah, we will. We're always looking to expand the selection, so just be on the lookout.
Yeah. So Alexey Miranchuk, it's so weird as a hockey fan, like hearing that name, I immediately think that like he plays hockey. and realizing that like you just don't hear that as much. Like there's so many Russians in the NHL, and you just
Yeah.
don't hear it as much here in MLS. So I immediately think of a hockey player when I hear that name. But it got over the line, right? That's
Yeah.
what matters. Are you
I,
excited?
yeah. I was gonna say I keep thinking of I don't know why Ilya Kovalchuk comes to mind, which is a name I know you know,
Oh
former
yeah.
Atlanta Thrashers standout back in the 2000s. But yeah, Miranchuk is in the fold, and it's why you mentioned NHL because Carlos Bocanegra said they spoke to the NHL because they have what 60 plus players, 66 players or so, Russian players who play in the NHL. So he talked to them just to kind of get the lay of the land, what the visa situation could look like. So that's kind of sidebarring things a little bit, but everything I've heard about him, everything we've heard, kind of leading up to this signing, Tommy, has been pretty exciting. We mentioned he said that 98th percentile of chance creation per 90 minutes with at Atalanta. That's something that Carlos made sure to really stress. Taking a look at the top four leagues, he is toward the top as far as that's concerned. So chances created per 90, shots per 90, or assists per 90, or something like that. He said that 90, 98th, 99th percentile toward that upper echelon of players in those top five leagues. The thing, though, is he hasn't had a sustained starting role with Atalanta. He essentially was, for lack of a better term, super sub. So that's one of the things that I'm interested about. He'll be the guy. He'll be the starter, presumably, at the 10 for Atlanta United. And I know Carlos said they want to get a 9 that can coalesce with him, that can connect with him. So that's the next big move they're kind of talking about, that we're kind of looking for. But Miranchuk is in the fold. I'm excited to see him get out there, get to work. Of course, you have to ask the question, can he gel with his teammates? Can he make that adjustment to MLS? So that's why I asked Carlos. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on, but all the I's are crossed, T's are crossed, and now we wait for him to make his arrival to the U.S. and get integrated with the team.
Yeah, and what the talk is 16.2 million, I believe, was the transfer fee.
So 13 million US dollars is the
Okay.
report from Tom Bogert. What's the report from Tom Bogert before the official announcement was made? But around, I think, 16.2 euro or something like that. Could have that wrong from a standpoint of exchange rate. So I feel like 13 million is more in line with the number that he did fetch. And of course, we'll never know officially, but that's the number that's been thrown around, which is decent, which is about what I figured, that 10, 13 million. I heard 15 or 16 before it happened. So, but it sounds like a little bit closer to $13 million for him, which is fair considering the time he played and the really production they had with Atalanta. Big question is, will it pay off? That's a big price tag. It's a top 5 price tag for an incoming player in MLS. So you'll have that. He's coming in essentially as the Thiago Almada replacement. Obviously, not for like because those are big shoes for Almada that he's leaving behind unfilled. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's going to be a lot of expectations on Miranchuk even before he takes the field. Can he handle that? Can he adjust to that? And again, adjust to the culture, adjust to a totally different league that MLS is from Serie A. So that's the number one thing that I'm taking a look at. How do you feel about it? What's kind of your worries? What's kind of your, I guess, your level of excitement coming in for this particular signing now that it's official?
Yeah, I mean, some of the worries have been on Twitter was that he didn't want to be here because there were some stories out there. They wasn't sure if he wanted to come to MLS and all that, and then fans are just wondering, is he here for a paycheck? Because we've been, I think, burned on that before, or at least other players have said that players have just come here for the paycheck and not want to play for Atlanta. And I don't think that's the case. Carlos mentioned that in the presser that he wants to be here. He talked to him.
Yeah,
He likes hip hop. So we found that out. So
let's
that
fit right
also, I
in.
guess, yeah, that was another selling point, I guess, for him to come in. So that was one part. I really wasn't overly worried about it, but I'm glad they addressed it. That that he wants to be here. But of course, what is he going to
Yeah,
say? I'm just here for the money. I don't care what's going on.
right.
I think that he could be successful in potentially any type of offense that, comes in. And I think that's been another worry here, is that there's been so many DP players brought in where you have, not your full-time manager in, right? Or at least that we know of. There's been, interim managers coming in, and then we're signing DPs, not knowing who's going to be the long-term choice here,
Yeah.
whether it's Rob or it's someone else. I don't think I'm too worried about that here either. So there's really not much that worries me. The question that in what you just brought up was, how does he become a full-time starter? How does he get used to that?
Yeah.
And I guess that, and unfortunately, Carlos didn't get an opportunity to answer that question for you, because I thought that was the most interesting one. One of the best question asked, because sometimes players come in and they're not used to being
Thank you.
starters, and can they handle it and all that. So we'll see. He's been in preseason training, I think he said, for 3 weeks, so he should be in shape, right, and ready to go.
Right.
We'll see how that is. And I mean, Carlos brought up a point. The transfers that came in last year were all ready to go in the summer, and they really just came in, settled into the team quick, and we're off to the races. I mean, Silva, Saba, Miomba, I mean, all three of those guys really, I mean, they came in and it was like, wow, these are great signings.
I feel like, though, just kind of caution that, and not to be pessimistic, but I feel like the question is, can Miranchuk be the same way? Can he, if he doesn't make an immediate impact, if he struggles to get used to MLS, the playing style, the tactics, just the overall expectations of him, coming in for a player that's one of the best in Atlanta United history, one of the best midfielders in MLS history, and that's not overstating things. But you look at, again, the expectation that are placed on him. If he doesn't right away produce, if he doesn't produce immediately, should we be worried? And I think the answer is no. Everyone handles that differently. You mentioned, though, that he had been traded with Atalanta before, leading up to his transfer. And of course, that'll be put on pause while he makes the move stateside. But everyone can't make that adjustment. Everyone can't be as seamlessly integrated to MLS. Everyone has their way. Everyone has their timeline on how they get integrated to this league. And I hope that, obviously, Miranchuk immediately integrates himself, immediately comes in and lights the league on fire. That's the hope. But if he doesn't, if he takes a little bit to get his legs underneath him, adjust to his teammates, get to know his teammates, get involved in the group, get integrated into the group, we shouldn't worry. We shouldn't worry at all, because, again, it takes different times for different people. And I feel we have to hopefully manage our expectations when it comes to Miranchuk, what he does with this team, especially if they don't end up signing a striker. Sounds like Carlos says they are wanting to. Garth was a little more non-committal about it. Yeah, he was a little more non-committal about it. But if they don't sign a striker, if they don't get a player in here that can, like Carlos was saying, co-adapt or coalesce with Miranchuk, maybe that adjustment will take a little bit longer. Maybe we won't see the finished product of Miranchuk until the 2025 season, which is okay. So just something to bear in mind. Again, not to pour water up in the situation, but just something to bear in mind as he makes his way in, as he becomes part of this team.
Yeah, and someone asked, I believe, like, what are the expectations of the rest of the season, right? And Carlos said, we wanted top 4. That's very unlikely at this
Not
point.
happening. Yeah.
Right. Can you get into the playoffs? I mean, that's a big question here. Can they sneak into the playoffs this year? And it'd be cool if they can, right? Give us a couple extra games, see if you can make a run here. If not, I mean, again, like you said, a lot of players take a while to get used to MLS, get used to traveling in the United States, all of that stuff. If you can get him adjusted and a new manager comes in and gets these guys together, and your roster is obviously changing a lot this offseason. I mean, we talked about it many times. Like, this roster is going to be tremendously different next season. There's just so many contracts that are coming up here. So I'm not worrying about this no matter what. I mean, the only way that could really worry me is if he somehow knock on every piece of wood in my house that, like, there's some type of injury or anything. Like, that would be the only thing that would worry me here. You're giving him an opportunity to be a starter for a few months, get him used to that, give him a break again, and then come back in for preseason training. next season, and you're going from there.
Yeah,
The other thing Garth said though too was that, like you said, we're trying to bring in another 9. We'll see. I mean, honestly, I right at this point, I don't know if it's a huge need because Rios and Tiare have been really good. So
yeah.
that if you don't push this,
But
you
also
don't, and we've
Rios.
I said Rios.
Yeah.
I mean, Rios is. I mean, they both have been very good players. So, do you need like if the player's available that you want? Obviously, you make the move. If the player's not available because you might not have Rios because he's on loan, right? So
Yeah.
he might have to leave. So if you don't get him now, you can wait on that. And then plus he wanted to make the line, and Garth was very direct about this. So I am now 100% behind it. He said, in fact, that
We are back,
also
baby.
next year we're back, baby. We're back. Also, that the third DP spot will be available next season. So you have 2 more DPs to come here in the next
Yeah.
this window and next. So
Yep.
I mean I think it was a little bit too early to say we're back, baby, but
Yeah.
we're getting closer, baby. We're getting closer, baby.
Yeah. We may as well address those comments because I know social media has me kind of buzzing about. Well, I don't know if we're back or not, which I agree with. I think he's obviously excited about the signing, right? And he obviously
He's
sees a
giddy.
lot.
No, giddy.
Yeah. Giddy, over the moon. Even he's obviously very giddy, over the moon, exuberant. Choose your word about this signing, and I think perhaps there's a chance he may have gotten ahead of himself when he said, "We're back, baby." Now, the proof is in the pudding, right? We'll see how back we are by the end of the season, by the end of next season. I'll say, but I can see where the fans are concerned. It's once bitten and twice shy, right? Or in this case, multiple times bitten. This team hasn't been very good over the past 2 years, and it's
2?
to what?
4? Oh, I thought you said the past 2 years. Past 4 years.
Well, I said past few years.
Okay.
Yeah, but
4
they
feels like a lot more than a few.
right.
In
Yeah.
soccer fan years. In soccer fan
No.
years, it feels like we've been crap for like a decade.
No, for sure. And Atlanta United's been bad more than it's been good. I mean, we can both agree. So I don't know if we're quote unquote back. I think, like I said, maybe Garth got ahead of himself just a little bit, with all respect to him. I mean, he's smarter than I am. He's run 2 teams very well. He knows more than I do. He's forgotten more about running a club than I do. So I'll defer to his wisdom on that. But at the same time, I don't know if the we're back, baby quote was wise at this particular point in time. Let's check at July 31st when we're sitting here. Let's look a year ahead of today and say, hey, was this a real turning point for Atlanta United? Did this set them on a pace where they are back to the years of 2017, 2018, 2019? I think we can judge then. You'll have, like you said, that other DP, whoever that is, and you'll be hopefully in a much better position than you are right now. But again, proof is in the pudding. We haven't seen this guy play for Atlanta United. We haven't seen him get on the field yet. So until we see that, until we see how he can perform, how he can play with this theoretical number 9 that we have yet to see, we have to just kind of hedge our bets just a little bit and not get too ahead of ourselves. And
yeah, I agree 100%. I was just say, when you hear Garth Lagerwey talk, you hear when he talked about Sleesh and we talked about Gregerson, he was like so excited because he got those players in the prime, right?
yeah,
Had success in multiple leagues, and then you hear him talk about Miranchuk, and it's like, okay, he's just as excited about this guy because these are the type of guys that he wants, right? And Matt put in the chat, this is. I think he's safer than Barco, Pity. He's in his prime. I mean, Pity
Yeah.
was I think also kind of in his prime at that time. He was a little
Yeah.
bit older of a player, but yeah, I mean with Barco, there was a lot of development there. Almada, there was definitely a lot of development there. there's a lot of, fear about that. We're hoping that this mature player comes in here and is able to, pick up things real quick and get going. And then I also see here, people are worried about, the striker position this year. And, if Rios gets hurt, Tiare hasn't been exactly, the picture of health.
Yeah.
He's not very healthy all the time. I hurt my back as probably as much time as Tiare's, hurt. I'm limping around, my living room all the time.
Well,
Look,
real quick, I'll throw this out there though. Miranchuk can't play striker, so just
then who's going to play
throwing it out there.
midfield?
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. You're right. Just putting it out there.
And that's fine. I don't know how the team. I mean, obviously the team wants to say they want to make the playoffs, but this is a long-term project, and I get it. I just don't want to make mistakes before. This office has made some real quick decisions to stay in the hunt for playoffs, and those decisions aren't 1-year decisions. They're investments, and when you look at these investments, it's 2 to 3 years that you're with these players, and that quick investment of just hoping you can make the playoffs that year doesn't fit into your long-term plans, and that's when you start getting in trouble, right? That's when you have Jurgen Damm on a 27-year contract, permanent residence at the training ground, and a permanent TikTok room. That's what happens when you run into those situations.
Allegedly.
So this is long term. So again, it's not about this season. We don't want to make that quick response here just to make the playoffs this year. We want to make sure that we're good in 2025, 26, 27, and then that's there. So these two, Atari is obviously healthy again. I'm perfectly okay if we wait to bring on 2 DPs next year.
Yeah.
But if it's now, cool. I mean, I can be a little bit happier for the end of the season and have a little bit more to hope for.
Exactly. Well, we can talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but we mentioned 2017, 2018, 2019, all of that.
The good years.
The good years. And one of the individuals that was with Atlanta United during those quote-unquote good years actually is joining us now, and she requires absolutely no introduction. Jillian Sakovits.
Oh,
How
this
are
is
you?
the best introduction yet. Hi, guys. So great to see you. How are you both?
Yeah, doing well.
Good. How are you?
Well. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm great. I'm so great. Great to be here. I got to hear a little bit about what you guys were chatting about, and it's a meeting of the minds of to sign DPs, to not sign DPs.
Right.
But we got one awesome new signing, and it's a good time to be an Atlanta United fan. I'd say.
Hoping so. We hope so. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cindy.
No, I was going to ask, how are things with you? How's New York? How are things with MLS Season Pass and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, life is great. It's not Atlanta, but I found myself in Atlanta a few times, either passing through the airport, and it always tugs at my heartstrings a little bit because that was my second home for 5 years. But life now in New York is good. Season Pass has been a blast. Covering 29 teams is very different than 1.5 because we were always fully covering Atlanta and then whoever else they had coming up on Wednesday or on the weekend. But it's been really, really fun to have to get embedded now with 29 teams instead of the just one. And another huge perk has been I still get to work with guys like Kevin Egan and Mo Adu. The three of us just did the skills challenge alongside Kaylin Kyle added into the mix. But it was hey, these are 3 Atlanta United broadcasters. So it's something obviously was good in the water in Atlanta.
Well, yeah, and that's what we were going to actually ask you. I mean, you just got back from Columbus and the All-Star game. I'm up north in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
So how was it? How did Columbus handle the whole All-Star break?
So fantastic. I actually shot ownership an email today in Dee Haslam and Dr. Pete Edwards because they gave me, so did Atlanta United, by the way, but they gave me some cute swag for my 7-month-old. So I sent them a little picture and a thank you. But I said it was very unique and very special that at the All-Star game, after the national anthems, they announced the ownership group. And, they walk out onto the field and shake the players' hands from both sides, Liga, Mekis, and MLS, and it was like a roar. Like it was a roar equal to what they gave Cucho. And you don't always get that with ownership, right or wrong, right? Like think about the draft and like the commissioner walking up. It's like it's just going to be booze no matter what, like in the NFL. And you get that with ownership, right? I mean, everybody in Atlanta loves, Uncle Arthur, but to hear how much they love this team, that this team was saved, that not only are they still in Columbus, but they're better than ever.
Yeah.
They're the reigning champs and they're in one of the nicest stadiums in the league. It's such a great story. And you're just so happy for the fans there. So I have to say, like, Columbus wouldn't have been on my bucket list, maybe 5 years ago. If you're a hardcore original, sure, you wanted to go to Mapfre Stadium. But now it's like, that's a good MLS city to go to because of the new stadium in the arena district and the money that the team is spending. So Columbus is fun. Columbus is fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm a huge WWE nerd, so I saw Kevin Egan was reunited with Sheamus, and I'm sure he was giddy about that.
They're incredible. Those WWE people, like they're fully on all the time. And they have so much energy and so much passion. And to think that we kind of bridged this like wild goalie wars thing into WWE, I think it's brilliant.
Were there any other big celebrities there?
That's a good question. Was there? No. Is Denny Boanga count? Does like Sergio Busquets count as big celebrities?
I think so.
Just soccer celebs. Was it All-Star Cup? I think it was Cup when I did it at LA. That got some celebs.
Yeah, I bet.
Some serious celebs. I don't feel there were some influencers. Like I forget what he's called. He's called like Soccer Dad or something. And he's like on Instagram and his name's like Soccer Dad. Anyway, he has a following. He was there, but I didn't know, because I guess I'm like more Soccer Dad than he is because I was like, who, what? So there were some like soccer influencers walking around. Yeah,
you're talking about the All-Star game, and obviously the big draw coming in was going to be Messi, but unfortunately he got injured doing Copa America, so wasn't able to make the trip. But it still sounds like it was quite a spectacle in Columbus, and it's really good that really rally around the event. Even though Messi wasn't there, you still had things like Wonga, you still had other players, Cucho, Lucho Acosta there. Other players have really shaped this league, and
100%. There were still two Miami players there. It's like, Messi and Luis Suarez obviously couldn't come.
Yeah.
But it's like you still have to pinch yourself that, well, half of the Miami All-Stars couldn't come, but that still meant Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba were, on the field for the skills challenge and for the game. So that was really cool for me to see. And talking to guys like Cucho, they were like kind of smitten and shy to go play alongside guys because Cucho's only 25 years old. So it's like he's been, when he was like idolizing guys like Busquets, he was 10 years old. So that was pretty cool.
It makes me feel old hearing that.
Me too.
Does Cucho remind you of Joseph Martinez in a way?
So it's funny you said that because until I spoke to him, I think I thought that because he has that kind of villain vibe in the way that he balls, which I'm so for. But then you talk to him and he kind of comes across like he wants to be like the kid in the front of the class. Whereas Joseph like was the villain in personality in the best way. I loved Joseph and the villain on the field. Whereas when I started talking to Cucho, he was like, he wouldn't mess with you. Like he would not mess with you the way Joseph would mess with you, I don't think. Whereas like Joseph was always messing with me and in such a fun way. But Cucho's a little less cheeky, I'd say, than Joseph was. But I think in the way that they ball, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, like even in their celebration, sometimes like the face that he looks at the crowd after he scores, like you just get that sense. And it's like, that just reminds me of Joseph.
And that's smart. That's really interesting that you noticed that because I can say the way that they roared for Cucho gave me serious Mercedes-Benz Joseph vibes.
For sure.
So I was going to ask you, how did they react when Acosta was introduced as the captain of the MLS team?
They booed him. They booed him. And I loved it. And you know what? He loved it too. And there was one other boo as well. And that was Salomon Rondon, who plays for Pachuca and knocked them out of, or handed them the loss in the final in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And to me, that spoke to like how dialed in this fan base was. Is they might know Lucho, right? Because that's their rival in MLS play. But like to know the guy who scored the brace in the final at an all-star game, it's like that shows that this fan base is like dialed into everything that's going on. So I thought that was really, really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we want to talk about Leagues Cup because it just started and MLS is dominating right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hot takes on Twitter, as there always is, right? Like
what are the hot takes on Twitter? I try to stay off.
So, I mean, MLS teams are obviously way better now, which, okay. And then you hear Liga MX doesn't even care about this tournament anymore. Just your thoughts, like what, obviously every team basically goes in as a road opponent. And when you look anywhere across the world and you look at Vegas and you look at the odds, the away team is always the almost in every situation is the underdog. So what are your thoughts on why it's working out the way it is?
So a couple things. One, I talked to Salomon Rondon before and after the All-Star game, and like he was not messing around with Leagues Cup. So Liga MX is taking it seriously. Number two, how many teams that are very good now were very good in March? Not a lot. We had questions about LAFC. Like we had questions about the LA Galaxy. We had questions about a number of different teams. I mean, this is a negative outlook, but like look at Atlanta United's home form to start the season. Then look at their home form in the second half. Like what is going on in March is that teams are getting used to it. And that's where Liga MX is at in their season, is they're just a few games in. So these guys are in MLS March form, whereas MLS is in 2/3 of the season form, and they should be a little more merged. But I think when you're living together on the road in hotels, which the Liga MX sides are, I think you can start to see things click by next round. I think we saw this last year in Leagues Cup that the MLS teams dominated in the group stage. But give them a week, right? Because a lot of these MLS teams, the guys are driving home after the games. These guys are living in hotels. So yes, while the home field advantage right now being in with the MLS teams can be coming into play, we also haven't seen a lot of the big, Liga MX teams, and we're going to saw some last night, and we're going to start seeing them again tonight. So it's like the Giants are coming, and we'll see. And here's the other thing that I'll say about all of that is in CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? The final was played in Pachuca. So it's like it's you can't really say that it's not fair. Do I think that the tournament is going to evolve over time in Leagues Cup? Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, do you foresee a world where this is a truly bi-national or even tri-national tournament where you see matches played not just in the U.S. but in Canada and Mexico as well?
Absolutely.
Obviously, it'll be a little bit more of a challenge for U.S. and Canadian-based teams, but at least it'll be a little more balanced out.
Look at any format or tournament across the world. When you looked at, take a World Cup, for example, when you look at something like that and what it looked like in its first few years, it's wild. And you see the winners, right? And everything like that. This is a tournament and a format that is just in its second year. So I'm really interested to see what it looks like in year 5, year 10.
So early on, have there been any surprise? I mean, we're just a few matches in, but early on, have there been any big surprises, any teams that you expected they may struggle with this tournament just a little bit? Any surprises that you've seen?
I think if I had to give a team of the Leagues Cup so far, this might not be the sexiest or most exciting scoreline, but I think it'd be San Jose taking down Chivas in penalty kicks, because San Jose is the worst team in MLS. You're expecting nothing from them in Leagues Cup. But to have a record audience at Levi Stadium where the San Francisco 49ers live,
Yeah.
it's so cool culturally too. Like if you think about California, getting like a team like Chivas up there and then getting a team like San Jose, it just speaks to the whole kind of like West Coast culture, and it shows the appetite that people want to go see these teams. Even when the Quakes are struggling, and to be able to keep your composure in a big moment like that and take down Chivas is really cool. And the idea that San Jose can get out of the group, right? Because now Chivas would have to beat the LA Galaxy.
Yeah.
LA Galaxy is best team in the West. So I would give a little, you got to give some love to the Quakes. And I'd give it to them in Leagues Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're not even the little brother of the LA teams. It's like
No,
they're like a
they're
fifth cousin
original.
at like that point.
Yeah, they're like they've been there forever. It's like this is gonna be a Cali Classico, between the Galaxy and the Quakes. So yeah, I'm gonna give my love to the Quakes so far in Leagues Cup.
Awesome. Well, Atlanta United, we started talking about before you came on, Miranchuk coming in, the
Mhm.
changes. Garth Lagerwey said, and I quote, "We are back, baby." That's what he said. We are back, baby. What are your thoughts on Atlanta United right now?
I love the quote from Garth. It's not true yet, right? Because nothing's happened.
No.
Um,
He's
but
giddy. He's
yeah,
DP. He's DP drunk.
why not? I'm all
Yeah.
for personality from the front office. I'm all for personality from the coaches. I'm all for people to setting themselves up to be bold, but to be wrong because they could not be back this year. But like, good on Garth. Like, if he's not saying it, if he's not speaking that vibe in the room, who is? So even if he knows it's not maybe true, like they sneak into the playoffs, they win a playoff game for the first time since what, like 2019. It good on Garth. That's leadership, and good on Atlanta United. I know it's been the struggle bus, and I know guys like Almada and Yakamaki's really won the hearts of the fans. But at the end of the day, they've freed up now heading into this transfer window, what, like $50 million? Good on Atlanta. That is unbelievable levels of money to have available to you. What is the best transfer window uh, in the world of soccer in a given year? So this is when the big moves are made, right? This is when guys like Messi came to the league. It's historically the window where the big things always happen since the beginning of MLS. So I'm really excited about it. And I would rather Garth say that than to be really boring and not say anything at all.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Garth's philosophy to player acquisition, player development, roster building versus Darren Niels' philosophy. Because I can imagine when Garth was in Seattle, he was watching Darren out here in Atlanta. It's like, what is this guy doing? He's bringing in young players and just selling them off. And now that he's here in Atlanta, Garth, he's here in Atlanta, he can say, you know what? This old way of doing things that Darren Niels favored, buy low, sell high, that's got out the window. We're not focused on that anymore. We're not just focused on turning a profit. We're focused on winning. And you can see that really, really starting to manifest itself. It's just the polar opposite ways of how Darren ran the team versus how Garth ran the team.
And listen, that's the evolution of the game. That's the evolution of a team. Darren was here before the team even existed. So there was one way to do things, and it won them a championship. And now there's another way, to do things as you evolve. And this league is constantly changing, right? We just had the rules changes. There's evolution all the time. So any good front office member evolves with the changes.
Yeah, I mean it's an exciting time, and the fans, it's split. A lot of them are weary because you bring in a DP, you have an interim manager with Rob, and you're not sure whether he's going to be here next year or not. And they've seen that, right? They've seen a Marcelino Moreno come in without a manager, right? And they're saying, the argument is do you bring them in before you have the manager, and what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I think their fans are broken right now.
The same question, right? Now, I wouldn't say Atlanta United is as broken as Nashville, but I had the same conversation on This Is MLS with Taylor Twellman of, do you go try to make a big signing at Nashville to entice a bigger manager? Or do you get the manager first and then try to recruit after that? Now they've got BJ Callahan, but this is an age-old conversation. And I do believe what Garth said, that I do think Rob is up for the job. I don't think he's just saying that. Rob's proved himself now twice. And it could go one of two ways. They go out and they make a splashy signing, but that doesn't always. It did work with Tata Martino, but that didn't work with Frank DeBoer. And I will argue too that I think Frank DeBoer he may not have been the style people wanted, but he was a more successful manager than I think people give him credit for. He was one goal away from sending Atlanta United back to an MLS Cup. We forget that. So that's not enough though for Atlanta fans, and that's okay. So look, Brian Schmetzer barely played. The guy just has been around the team forever, and then he takes over for a legend like Ziggy Schmidt, and they win MLS Cup that year.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's Atlanta United's future, but I am saying that there's all ways to hire in MLS and it can be successful in terms of a manager. But I understand the fans' feelings of being weary, and that means that they are good fans, because if they were just excited, that means they weren't paying attention. And Atlanta United fans are always paying attention.
Yeah, we've talked about on the show about DeBoer. I mean, remember when he was here, fans would have been fired after the first 10 matches. Yeah, you were there. You were hearing him, hearing the team getting booed in the stadium.
He was a culture shock. Listen, for the fans, for the players, he was a culture shock from Tata Martino, but that wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
I liked him. I can say, I understand why you need to know how to manage egos. You need to know how to get the best out of your best players. So I'm not going to pretend to know pretend to know what was going on in the locker room or that it was right. But what I can tell you is in the way that he dealt with the media, and not like the overall media, but the people who were in his day to day, he was incredibly insightful and incredibly respectful. And I appreciated him.
Well, and you say you're not on social media that much, but what we saw was all of a sudden when Pineda was let go, all of a sudden Frank DeBoer's trending in Atlanta, and you're like, what is going on? Is he back?
Gonzalo Pineda was another. What was another one. Honestly, I can say that there was such good people that has been around that team. Gonzalo Pineda was the most gracious person I've ever dealt with. Frank was serious, but he was really quite respectful. Gabriel Heinze probably was the only one that really caught me off guard, and he didn't last very long.
Take a drink of my water.
Well, he was here during COVID, so it's a little bit different. I do want to ask you, as we kind of take a wider lens view of MLS, San Diego, of course, coming into the league in 2025. As Chico Lozano signed, they have some other players that they're bringing in. They don't have a coach, as far as I've heard. I've heard Bob Bradley get thrown around. So, what do you make of the impact that San Diego could make in 2025?
I think it's all how they go about their business. Do they go about their business in an Atlanta United, LAFC type of way, making big signings that make sense for good soccer, like a Joseph Martinez, a Tito Villalba, a Carlos Vela? You're in Southern California, so go out. There is the appetite for this team. Go out there and make a signing that people want to see. I think Lozano is close, but I think there's more in the tank in terms of making that Carlos Vela-esque signing in San Diego. And as for a coach, you need to be playing exciting soccer. So however you can get that, go out and do it.
I think too, not just being in Southern California, but being right up against the Mexican border is going to be massive for them, and how they tap into that culture. I love that they got Lozano. Go really make some waves with the name and pack that stadium out. Exactly.
I remember and you guys, the new show that we launched this year with MLS Season Pass, and it's on YouTube as well. So it's not just for people with the subscription, is This Is MLS. And it's kind of an around the horn type show where it's really great. Just the way you guys have your setup. It's, we got Taylor Twellman, Mo Du, Bradley Wright Phillips, Sasha Kleshton, Kaylin Kyle, all of our analysts. And we talk about this type of stuff. And Chucky Lozano was the conversation piece of it. While it's a very good signing, it was that, go make waves. And Bradley Wright Phillips joked like, hey, Mo Salah doesn't look happy. Like, get a Mo Salah, get someone else who has caps for the Mexican national team and, can link up with Lozano, and it could be really fun. So go get him, San Diego.
Yeah, so much pressure again. Like with San Jose, like they're going, oh no, another team in the state.
Well, you know what though? It's kind of like broadcasters, it's like players, it's like people at work. It's like not sometimes. I think all the time. Little pressure, a little feeling uncomfortable. It's good for us, and San Jose needs it. But I don't know if they care. I don't know if that affects them, if that changes the way that they're going to go about their business.
Yeah. Well, last question for me. MLS, it's the second year of it being on Apple, and we're seeing it evolve. Is there talks already of like changes like going into next year? Like, is it going to continuously evolve on how everything's working with it?
So I don't have the plans for next year. But what I can tell you is there was a lot of emphasis on adding this midweek programming that they tabbed me with hosting this year. Of year one was let's get the games on the air. And they did that. And let's get them on the air in 100 plus countries, which I think is so cool. It's been really fun. Like it all started to see like Bernadeschi, and I didn't get to, but I wanted to ask him like, hey, like you got a bunch of people in Italy watching you, like speak Italian, give them a message. Cause it's like anyone's logging on from anywhere. Same with like Evander from Portland. It was like, hey, your family in Brazil stayed up to watch, like send them a message. So that's been really fun, but it was about getting the games on the air, and they did that. Now in year two, it's about really being a network. And so you still have your pre and post game shows and you still have your games, but the MLS fan, it's not like the NFL fan that, is going to just turn on the games on Sundays. Like there's an appetite, just like, Scarves and Spikes, which is why you guys exist, to continue the conversations during the week. So them adding the midweek show and This Is MLS was a step. And we always say like, we want to do more. So I don't think that changes next year.
Cool. Our hope, just to tell you our hope.
Yeah. Tell me. What do you guys want?
Spread the games out. Like,
Okay.
Because I think for like us, we watch Atlanta United and then the game's over. And then we usually talk about it after we go on Twitter Spaces and everything like that. But like, there's so many other good teams to watch. And it felt like before when it was, it was on ESPN there for a while, there were afternoon games. There were, sometimes there was 1 o'clock games, 5 o'clock games, 7 o'clock games. So like you could sit down kind of like college football on Saturday and be like, I'm just watching soccer all day. But it's kind of like after Atlanta United game's over, really all you have are the West Coast teams. And that's kind of like your whole week of it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's our hope.
I like that. I'll spread the word. I've heard that one. So I'll relay the information. That's what they want, right? They want the fans and the subscribers to be happy, and I definitely see your points there 100%.
Yeah, and Sunday games are great too. Like I like how they spread them out on Sundays sometimes as well. Like there's a 1 and a 4 game. But let's get some Friday games too. Like I think that would just make it like a whole fun weekend.
Or just do what Leagues Cup does, and there's basically games every single day.
Let's get crazy, right?
Right.
Well, it's hard for a wraparound show, I'm sure. If you're never leaving, they're just putting beds in the studio, and you guys can't leave.
May or may not have slept in that studio, so that wouldn't be anything new.
One final question for me: who wins MLS Cup when it's all said and done?
Ooh.
Are you ready to give that prediction, or do you still need a little more time? Or
so can I'll give a small handful of teams. I think in the West, it's RSL was so fun, right? So fun. But I just don't think they have it to win the whole thing. I think way too much evolves on Arango. And like, look, he got suspended and like you need more. So for me, it's the LA Galaxy because of who they have in Pat Painstill and Ricky Puig. But then it's like LAFC and they have been looking incredible over the last month.
Yep.
And then like Olivier Giroud's pulling up, you're going to have guys who have played in a World Cup, won a World Cup together. That's the type of chemistry and the type of leadership you don't get all the time on an MLS team. It reminds me a lot of Giorgio Chiellini, like he won the Euros and a year later he's at LAFC and like he was running that team on the field for Steve Cherundolo. So I think that's kind of what makes them tick. So Galaxy, LAFC, and then I'd say in the East, this isn't surprising. It's the Crew or Miami.
Yeah.
And I think Miami right now has made it very clear that like they're eyeing a trophy in MLS action. That's where their priorities lie. It's Tata Martino. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
How good would an Atlanta United ring next to a Miami ring look? I know it hurts, but I'm fine with it.
He's a good guy.
Mhm.
We'll let it slide.
Yeah, he brought it to Atlanta.
Yes,
you want to see
absolutely.
him do well.
Absolutely.
Who do you guys have winning MLS Cup?
I'm gonna go with the Crew. I'll probably go with the Crew. To be honest
Okay.
with you, I don't know who Tommy has.
I'm MLS rematch, MLS Cup rematch. It's gonna be LAFC and Columbus again, and I was at that game. That game was
Really?
intense. I mean, the crowd, like you were talking about, the supporter section over there. I mean, they were jumping up and down all 90 minutes. It was intense there, and you just knew the Crew were to win that game as soon as it kicked off. Like they just dominated that game, and I think you're gonna get back into here, and I think these two teams are gonna do it again. And Columbus is making moves.
Basically in the finals every single year. That's
Right, and like
incredible.
yeah, and Columbus, like every time I look at my phone, Columbus has made some move. They're making trades, they're signing players,
Right.
they're selling guys. Like there's probably one since we've been on here. Like they probably made a move.
Yeah. Like you're right. It's constant. I think if we got rid of conferences, which would never be a good idea, like wouldn't you love? I mean, the Eastern Conference Championship could be, but Miami Columbus would be like. I think right now on paper, like those are. Take their current form out of it. If I took rosters and just skill, I think I'd love to see an MLS Cup final. That was the Crew versus Miami, but that obviously can't happen. That's probably our Eastern Conference Championship.
I agree. Well, Joe, appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming
Thank
on. We'll be watching you on This Is MLS, and sure say hello to Kevin for us.
Oh, I so will. You guys are the best. Like, thanks for doing this. Like, these are the types of shows that help us across all the markets, like keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on, how fans are feeling. And so thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Yeah, thank
Hopefully
you.
we have you back soon.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks, Bill. See ya. Good to catch up with her.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss. Like I like MLS and how it works, but a lot of fans, whether you're watching, and you don't get this in the NFL, but you get this in baseball, the NBA, the NHL, you get your home crew, like for all your home matches, and you get to watch them, you get to listen to them, like you're gonna have your guy on every single time.
Right.
And you lose that. And you can listen to Jason and Mike on all the home games. I hope they adapt to that at some point and allow away matches as well that you can listen, because I mean, I love our Apple guys that we have on, but like there's just some times where it's like, we've had the same crew on for like 2 games. Like I'm going to just go and listen to Jason and Mike this time around.
Yeah, I think hopefully next year they'll have a away option. So I would like to think that's in the works, but yeah, it's good to see Kevin heavily involved in MLS Season Pass, of course, hosting 360. Mo, partnered with Keith Costigan, couple. I was gonna say a couple of years or so, but Mo, gotta get Mo on. We've had Keith on multiple times, but Mo, we still need to get him on. Of course, Jillian hosting This Is MLS, involved with MLS Season Pass as well, pre and post match coverage. So good to see him heavily involved with the league, and it's fun to watch them and say, "Hey, I need them when," and I'm sure it's the same for other fans around the league with their respective teams. So yeah, great to have her on. Great to catch up, see how she's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And one point we were wrapping up before Jillian came on. We was talking about Miranchuk and talking about Garth Lagerwey, and one of the comments and you mentioned to Jillian as well about the days of buying young, selling high later are over. And he said that it's over
Yeah. Yep.
from there. And that really leads into, I mean, we've bought so many players so young over the years. I mean, and specifically, like, you remember like those 2019, 2020 teams where it was more 2020, where you're buying these real young kids and, you're hearing great things about them, and they come in and they don't work and they're developing, and then they eventually go somewhere and maybe they start getting good a few years later. Like, a team like this needs to be what, and I'll put Columbus in this, but like Columbus is in a different way because of, like, unfortunately, it's just not a big city. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they don't get the respect they do because it's Ohio, and I live in Ohio, so I understand, like, the thing. But like, you look at Miami, you look at the LAs, and San Diego is going to be another one of them. You look at these big teams, and Atlanta's one of them, I think, as well. Because especially how they came in and how they did so well is that you need to be at the top of the table all the time, right? You need to be competitive every year.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be having these down years. And it's refreshing to hear that that's over. Like, it's worked sometimes in our favor, but
Right.
it's failed more times than it's succeeded. And the fans were getting tired of it. And like, I know, like, everybody gets excited about hearing 50 million, 50 million, 50 million. But we hear this, like, there's been comments in the chat here, and sorry we didn't get to all of them because Jillian was on, but like, people are like, well, what are you doing with that 50 million now? Like,
Right.
what are you going to do with it? And if we don't spend that 50 million, which we're not going to, we're not going
No.
to spend the
No.
rest of it here and in this window, is once if we don't go get a 9 here and we just run with Rios and Tiare, people are going to go, what good was that $50 million, right? And unfortunately, sports are, what are you doing for me now? And
Yeah.
that, the rest of that 30, whatever, 7 million or whatever it is, sitting in the bank, if this transfer window closes, that's not going to make people happy, right? They're going to say, well, why didn't you spend that $37 million now? And I don't blame some people for that because they want the now. They have season tickets.
Yeah.
They want to see them win now. And that's just kind of where we're at right now. Now, long term, I'm like, cool, we got this money. We have 2 DPs left to sign, right? We now have confirmed that it's 2 DPs. So you have 37 million to go get the best of the best out there to make your team well. And then you've got all the other free agents that you could potentially, or all the contracts that you could be getting rid of in the summer. So you could be, updating some of those lower dollar players that, maybe aren't working out. So all I could say for fans is, I know Garth, we're back, baby, and all that.
Right.
I think we could say and I said this last week, but I'll just say it again, July 31st, 2025, hopefully that did not go, it was not a bad take, right? It's not a bad take. We don't look at this and say, okay, you know what? We didn't do anything with that 50 million. We didn't go and replace all these players that we've had with better players. Like, everything that we've been told is everything's better as far as scouting, development, all of that. But now it's put up or shut up time for Garth. And, I'm
exactly.
happy that he's excited. I'm extremely happy that he's excited about it. You could tell he's giddy when he gets the guys that he wants. Now is you got to prove it. And yeah, I mean, like, and I understand, like, and I've seen this, and like, Jack, we're not back at all. That statement from Garth is ridiculous. I think, his comment is that we're back in a way that I think they revamped their business model, right? And I think that's the most important thing here, because nobody cares about, like, we don't get a trophy for the biggest transfers in MLS, right? And Garth has told that story 100 times, where you've heard him talk about, Arthur already says that we have the record for transfer outs and all of that. Like, that doesn't get Arthur excited. Arthur wants trophies. He wants the Falcons to win a Super Bowl.
Money,
Right. He wants the Falcons to win a Super Bowl. He wants Atlanta United to win MLS Cup. That's all he cares about. He wants that. He doesn't want to waste money on guys, but if he have to, he'll pay for it. All of that. Like, that's fine, but he wants trophies. And I think we're now in the full, I think his thing was, like, we had a full sale here, right? We got rid of Almada. We got rid of Giakoumakis. We're looking long-term here. And again, it's going to be proven. I'm excited that he's excited, but until next year, I mean, even this year, if you make the playoffs, if you win MLS Cup, I'll shut up. But it's really, whatever happens this year, I'm going to be disappointed, but next year's the year where you got to say, like, okay, you've sold us on this 2-year project, right? This 2-year project, that's what you sold us on. And now you've pretty much have assembled everything that you need now to make this team better. You've opened up all the DP spots, all 3. You opened all of them up. You've made TAM players. You've done this. Now you got to win. That's all you got to do. Next year, you got to win.
And then from a fiscal standpoint, you're going to see this team, I think, be more fiscally responsible when it comes to the types of players that they bring in. Sure, you spent $13 million on Miranchuk because he had the money to spend, but you won't always have that money to spend. I don't know what the highest transfer fee Seattle paid when Garth was running the team. I'll have to look that up. I knew though, and we mentioned this. We mentioned the example of Rui Diaz. They paid $7 million for Rui Diaz, and he's among the top players in MLS at his position. So I think Garth realizes that you don't need to pay oodles of money to get a quality player in MLS. Sure, Atlanta are in a much better place than Seattle from a physical standpoint because Arthur Blank is very wealthy. He's a much wealthier person than Adrian Hanauer and the ownership group up in Seattle. So he has money to burn. But I think under Garth, this team will be more responsible around how much money they spend. And maybe people will get the impression that Garth is taking the cheap way out. I don't think that's the case. But I think
you're going to hear that for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm already prepared for it. But you have to understand, you can't always buy a good team. I mean, as a New York Mets fan, I can tell you that every day of the week. And you see it, New York Yankees, LA Dodgers, the LA Lakers, these big market teams who have thrown money around and gotten no championships out of it. Boston Celtics are a little bit lesser of an example, but yeah, you see teams spend money, a lot of money. It doesn't always correlate to winning championships. And if that were the case, I mean, everyone will do it. Now, there are teams in the league who have the handcuffs on and are determined not to spend money by choice. And I don't think Atlanta will quite get to that point. But again, I think Garth Lagerwey knows that, hey, just throwing money at a player isn't everything. And because of that, you're going to see much more responsible choices being made when it comes to bringing players in. There won't always be the flashiest signings. Like, I don't know how many people knew about Rui Diaz when he came to Seattle, but he's paid off in dividends. And I think you're going to see the same thing with some of the players that Atlanta United bring in. They won't always be the sexy name or the big names. You're not going to see Antoine Griezmann. You're not going to see Olivier Giroud, or we joked about Mo Salah to San Diego. You're not going to see like Mo Salah come to Atlanta United or anything like that. Not just because we look at Atlanta measured up to New York or LA or Miami for that matter. It's a little bit different scenario. It's not the entertainment capital that those cities are, but just because that's not what they want to do. That's not what Garth Lagerwey wants to do. He understands that we need to find players that fit our culture, fit our team, that can help this team win. Again, we don't know if Miranchuk can do that. We haven't seen him play in the Atlanta United kit. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he comes in, like I said earlier, sets the league on fire. So then we'll have to wait and see and hope that he can do just that.
Yeah, and like you could use that money to bid, right? Like if there's a team that's out there and you want to pay $10 million and another team wants to pay $10 million, and it's, let's just say that it's, just because we were talking about him, San Jose, right? From there, you can up it and offer 13, and then offer, you can offer more, and then you can offer more of a salary as well. Like that's,
you gotta be careful that when you do that.
You can, but like if you identify the player that you want, I think that it's okay. Like, and like Miranchuk was a player. Carlos said that they identified him last summer, I think. Like that was a player that they were identifying, and he's been on that list. Scouting, found him last summer, and they'd been kind of following him there, and then they were able to do it. And the rumor started at 10 million. I think that's what it was. Like that's what
Yeah.
the first rumor started, and then it bumped up, and fans were a little nervous about it. It's funny how some fans are like, no, don't spend it. Oh no, you're spending way too much. Like it's funny kind of watching like them go back and forth. You know, they've got the money, they could do it, and if long as they're not going crazy on it, and you know if they want to spend a couple million more to get the guy that they feel that's going to win this team championships, then sure, go do it. Like if you had a player you were looking at, just say it's a Cucho out there, right? And you know you can offer a couple more million on a player than you know Team B. Cool, go offer a little bit more because you're getting the guy that you want. And that's, you know, you're not always going to get in bidding wars, but if you do, it's nice to have that extra money because, you know, Seattle, that was one of the reasons why I think Garth was getting out of there. There weren't funds available. They were telling him that spending was going down. So he said, I'm getting out, right? And, you know, was able to do it. But like, so say, I mean, now Seattle and Atlanta, if they're going after the same player, I'm sorry. As far as money-wise, Atlanta's going to win that every single time.
Yeah, I think too. I think he felt he topped out. Like there wasn't much more room to navigate at the top of the hierarchy in Seattle.
Yeah, he wanted to be president. Sure.
Yeah, and he got his wish with Atlanta. He got his wish with Atlanta, and like you said, they have more resources than Seattle do. So yeah, I you know we talked about it with Joel earlier, but I imagine Garth was looking at what Darren was doing the first 3-4 years of the league, 3-4 years of the club. It's like, what's this guy doing? While he's just sitting back and watching it happen. But now you can see, you know, Lagerwey is in those certain terms saying Darren Eales was wrong with his approach, or at the very least saying that, okay, this may have worked for him, but it's not going to work for me. You know, we made money, we have 50 million, but we're not always going to have 50 million. We're not impressed with just saying, hey, you know, he said it, but Arthur was saying you don't get an MLS Cup for most money made in a transfer window. You get MLS Cup for performance, and that's what we need to see.
Yeah. And Omar says, I guess Boca said since March he saw him, not summer. So my bad if that's true. And then you know, attacking player, I think, and the reason why I think everybody's thinking strikers because everyone's been asking, like, are you looking at a number 9? And I mean, we'll see. I mean, you could upgrade the wing as well. I mean, Silva hasn't been lighting the world on fire either. So if, you know, potentially looking at that. I mean, and again, you've got that other DP spot available too. So you've got some room here to create creatively to upgrade this team, and it's just how they want to use those 2 other DP spots, you know, going into next year. It's exciting. It's exciting to watch. It might suck for the next couple months depending on how everything comes together here. But let's get crazy next year, 2025, right?
They also need a backup left back for Amador.
You did, yeah, and
Doug, so it's not a priority. That's what Boca said. It's not a priority.
Yeah, Doug asked about that, you know, because you only have him there, but you know he said Ronald Hernandez is there, Edwards can also play there, so I mean you've got some flexibility there. It's probably not the depth that you want, right? I know fans aren't a huge fan of Ronald on the left there. I understand, but I'm sure, you know, again, Brad Guzan potentially out, Ronald Hernandez potentially, and other players. That's going to be money that you can go get that depth next season. You can't move it all here in the summer window, but definitely next year you're going to have a lot of choices of what name you're going to put on the back of a jersey next year for sure. A ton of new options.
So, LA United versus Santos Laguna Sunday. We might do a show on Friday. I don't know if we'll be live, or at the very least, it might be recorded. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to their socials, I should say. We're
rooting for them tonight, though, right? We're rooting for them. I mean, it's because if Philly win or not Philly, DC wins, then they advance, right? And then and then we're in some type of tiebreaker situation. Is that how that's working?
There's some fuzzy math going on that I'll have to dig into, but at the very least, it's must win for Atlanta on Sunday. So we'll get to that in depth. Yeah,
100%. Like they're on short, right? They got to go over to Philadelphia. That's why I almost said Philly. Playing there. I mean, they got to go to Philly. They got to go there, and then that's short rest, and then they got to come to Atlanta and play on Sunday. We've been chilling since Friday, right? Yeah,
That's
Friday. So you have no excuses if you're Atlanta. Santos Laguna hasn't won since, I know I put the date in here, March 9th. We've had Easter, we've had St. Patrick's Day, we've had, was it Labor Day?
Birthday.
Your birthday.
Memorial
we've
Day.
had 4th of July. I mean, we've run into how many holidays have we had since Santos Laguna's won a game? And this is going to be the worst take in the world. We're going to play this back, and we're going to go, what did we do? What did we say? But like, yeah, there's so many things that have happened. We have a different everything's different since that date. So Atlanta, you have to win this game. And if it's goal differential and all of that, and I mean, you've got to hopefully run it up. You got to run it up. And there's no excuse to start off slow. I know I wasn't with you guys on Monday, but I went back and finally watched that game, and it was just inexcusable on how Atlanta started that game. And I understand why Rob was upset the way he was on how that game started. So I feel this team's going to be heated, and they're rested, and they've got to go out there and prove it. And I'm going to SmackDown on Friday, so I won't, and SummerSlam on Saturday, so I won't be with you guys. But I'm just throwing my shot out there right now. It's either going to be 3-0 Atlanta or 4-1 Atlanta.
Okay, this will be recorded, so we can go back.
Yeah.
And play
I think they're gonna be pissed off, and they should be the way they played that game.
They have to be. But we'll dive into that a little bit more in depth later on in the week. But yeah, find us on social, scarsandspikes.com, Patreon.
You want to talk about what we're doing new on Patreon next week?
Yes. So starting next week, we're gonna have after the show you can call it. So we'll have a regular show Wednesday nights, live 7 p.m. But then if you're a patron, we'll have a after the show right after we end. So definitely stick around for that. Not
after
this week,
dark.
but next week.
Scars and Spikes after
dark. But no, if you're not a patron, definitely sign up to the patreon.com/Scars and Spikes, because that will be the only way you can get a link to our after the show starting next Wednesday.
Jack's already giving me SummerSlam things. Jack, we can't be friends if you want Cody to lose. But yeah, we'll be back on Sunday. Leagues Cup, you guys will be there, I'm sure. I'll be at home, so we'll do our pre-show, and then we'll do spaces afterwards. It'll be a good time. It'll be early spaces. It's 4:00 start, right? 4:10, whatever.
4:00, yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, so it'll be
Sunday Atlanta laces SmackDown on Santos Laguna, or SummerSlam Santos Laguna.
If you smell what Rios is cooking. And yeah, it'll be a good time. We'll have a lot of time for spaces. It won't be spaces till midnight. We did spaces on Friday until midnight, and it was real quick. It was hilarious because I was at Deadpool, so I jump on spaces, and I'm like, I have nothing to talk about. I watched the last 15 minutes of the game on my phone, like during the post-credit scene of the game, and I'm like, all right, this is reversal, guys. Everybody hop on spaces. Somebody tell me how Atlanta United plays. The first two people I get on go, well, I didn't watch the first half. That's all I need right now. I need somebody to talk about the first half.
It was bad. That's all you need to know. It was bad.
And then someone came in, I forget who it was, and told us a little bit, like gave a very good explanation of how the entire first half went, and then we moved on from there. But join us on Spaces if you haven't done it. It's a good time. Everybody hops on, and we talk about the game after. So join us on Scarves and Spikes on Sunday after the game, and we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks to Jillian Sakovits for joining us as well. That was fun.
Oh, see, that's who I forgot. It was, look, D-Man and Tunga, I am sorry. I had quite a few drinks during Deadpool. Legally, they sell alcohol at theaters now, City. Don't judge me on that.
No
so
judgment.
I was walking in the neighborhood. I had a beer in my hand doing spaces. It was pretty funny. The cops were driving by me. Omar, come on, man.
Were you drinking?
I love you, Omar. What's that?
So hopefully you weren't drinking and driving at the same time.
No, that's what the wife drove me home. She never drives, so she drove me home that night. But yeah, go see Deadpool. It's good. It's a good movie. Don't get spoiled. You got to go see it now.
Okay.
All right. Well, just
Twisters.
good day. Go Santos Laguna.
See ya.
See ya.